I've had an accident and I've skidded all over the place. What's up, friends? Thanks for tuning back into Bronco Adventures. And we've got a treat for you today. What do we have going on the Bronco today?
The skid plates.
Skid plates.
Skid plates, that's right. The Bronco is still currently equipped with the factory skid plates. We've had to add them here and there because, well, we forgot to check the box when we got the Bronco. But we've got a solution for you. Check this out. Our friends at Talon's Garage have sent us over the entire set of skid plates for the 21 Plus Bronco. We got our gas tank skid plate. We've got transfer case skid plate, the transmission skid plate, which I'm particularly excited for. Then we got motor, and then of course the front skid. Let's get them on the Bronco. Most importantly, you gonna take off the skid plates?
No.
No? Who's gonna take them off?
You.
Me.
Yeah.
Well,
this is true.
Okay, I'll get it done. Let's get to it. Well, if I gotta do the work of taking the skid plates off and putting the skid plates on, I need you to get in and pull the Bronco into the shop. Can you do that?
Yes.
Come on, get it in there.
Thanks, Lewis.
Welcome.
So Talon's Garage sent us all the proper, what are these called? Instructions. We're going to read these so we understand how to put our skid plates on the Bronco. Because these aren't just your average, ordinary, just stick them on there kind of skid plates. They've gone through a whole R&D process of making these skid plates a lot stronger. So that way we can scoot our Bronco over bigger, harder obstacles and not hurt anything underneath. There's even extra bracketry that we're going to add onto it to give it even more strength than your factory skid plates. But first, I got to get to work and get all the factory junk skid plates off our Bronco. What do you say?
Yes.
Let's do it?
Yeah.
I've had an accident and I've skidded all over the place with skid plates. So, we've got our OEM skid plates off, as you can see the dirty ones. Then we've got our Talon's Garage skid plates all laid out in the order they go under the Bronco. So let's talk about some differences here. Number one, with our factory system, we've only got the front skid, the motor skid, and then there's nothingness here. So that's where our transmission skid plate comes into play now. I'll tell you what, that's what I'm most excited about. Then we got our transfer case skid plate that we just added on. We got this off that wrecked Bronco, you know, the one that was, anyway. Then we've got our fuel tank skid plate that we bought aftermarket. This is the JCR skid plate, and it served us well. I mean, we use this thing. You can see, you know, the motif we got going on. We got a little bit of Bronco Man 6's pasture. Oh, this is, that's some sand hollow. Oh, and right here, this is a special one. This is Texas. We brought it with us because we don't like to clean it very often. But as good as this skid plate was, well, I think that we pretty well destroyed it. So, Talon's Garage. See how rough this one is? We're going to put yours to the test. We got Talon's Garage skid plates. You can get these in steel or aluminum. Monica, how thick are the steel?
3/8 of an inch.
No, 3/16. We were arguing about this earlier.
know.
We looked it up. These are 3/16. But the aluminum ones, you can get all this in aluminum.
Hey, I know that one.
What
It's
is?
a 1/4 inch.
1/4 inch. The cool part with these, and we'll show you along the way, we're going to be protecting even more of the Bronco, not only because we have the transmission skid, but because the way these skid plates mount, there's tabs on the frame that is actually going to protect way more of the underside of the vehicle. So, you know, in the eyes of a 5-year-old, if you had to decide on these skid plates between the factory ones and the new ones, what would you pick and why?
The new ones because they are tougher.
Tougher?
Yeah.
We're going to put that to the test. So, Now that I did my job and got the skid plates off, I'm gonna back out and you get to do your job and sweep. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay, get to it. So welcome to the underneath of the Bronco. Before we get started putting the skid plates on, I want to point out a couple things that the Talon's Garage skid plates are going to actually help us improve. You can see these cross members here and how beat up they're getting. The skid plates will sit down low enough that we will now not interfere with these at all. Ford is actually saying some of these tabs and stuff that you're bending when you're going off-road, that it potentially can actually total your Bronco because it's frame damage. That's what they say. The other ones that it will help protect, and we haven't contacted them, which is nice, but right where your A-arm bolt's coming through, this lower tab down here by the bolt in the rear and the front where it pinches in there, if you bend those too much, they can actually, if there's ever a reason to, you know, be in an accident with your Bronco, they can say that it's totaled because of that. So the Talon skids are gonna come down just enough to where we're gonna glide right over these contact points when we're doing sweet off-roading. So now let's get the front skid plate on, motor skid plate, transmission skid plate, transfer case skid plate, and then fuel tank skid plate. I am so excited. Let's get to work, people. The coolest part with these skid plates is you're mounting everything to original holes in the frame. No drilling necessary, guy. So what we're doing here is this first piece is coming under the first core support of the Bronco. And is what this is doing, like I was explaining earlier, is it's protecting these edges here. Because again, if these get all folded back, we've heard rumor that Ford is saying, yeah, nope, no good, because that's frame damage. So this bracket that we just put on here is for dropping us lower. Now when our skid plate comes down here, it's going to be fully protecting this whole edge so you can't get up in there and bend it. Now I know what you're thinking, because I was thinking the same thing. Use an air gun to, you know, put these bolts right up in. Well, you know, hold your horses. You don't need to be cranking those things on, you know, 1,000,000 foot-pounds. So get in there hand tight and then just go a little bit past that. Give it a few shakedown runs and then get under and just make sure everything's still nice and tight. Now that we got this mounted, we get to put on our front skid. So there's our front skid plate. We utilize the 2 factory bolt holes and put in our new hardware. And then also that drop bracket that we put on very first, we utilize the smaller hardware right in there. And this is exactly what I was trying to, you know, describe to you. You got your skid plate and then it goes right over and protecting that portion of the frame. So now our engine skid plate is going to utilize the next 2 riv nuts that are in the drop bracket we first put on. Then also, I'll show you, there's a couple spacers that are going to go underneath the bracket back here, the next cross member, and that's going to allow the skid plate to protect everything underneath the Bronco, under the engine. Makes sense. That's why they call it an engine skid plate. So for the installation process, you've got 2 of the smaller bolts that go into our rib nuts. The longer of the 2 goes into the passenger side, and the shorter of the 2 goes into the driver's side. Exactly the same on both of them. Longer, shorter. It's just that simple.
Alright, so their hardware comes with 4 of these little spacers. I'm going to put 2 on each side. Under here, I don't know if you can see it. Under. Run your bolt up through, and then into the Bronco.
Right into the Bronco.
Hopefully.
I'll get you the next 2 spacers.
Yeah, thank you.
You look good working on a Bronco is what I'm saying. So if I understood you right, you take 2 of the aluminum spacers.
Yes.
And you put them right there on the skid plate.
Correct.
And then you put your bolt through the 2. One-handed is a magic trick.
Teamwork.
And then it goes right into the Bronco.
Yeah.
Well, that makes all the sense.
Hooray.
Plus, again, it's dropping us lower to where we protect underneath the A-arm right here.
Oh, yeah,
that's the critical point. You know, now we're just gonna right up. It's not even gonna get touched.
The skid plate will.
skid plate's gonna get touched. So now Monica's under there getting the bolts in position for the almighty transmission skid plate to come in place. Is what she's doing is right here where these slide into place, she's just getting the bolt started. There's also going to be two, like we just did, 1/4 inch spacers that go between the skid plate and the frame. So she's going to get those started, so when we slide this in, the bolts will be there just to hook it, and then we can put one bolt in the rear to help hold it on there. But a couple things I really want to point out with this skid plate, these two ribs that are right here. So what that's going to do, number one, yes, it's protecting the transmission, but it's also giving some rigidity to this whole plate. If those weren't there, there's a high possibility that, you know, this could flex, and then what's the point of your skid plate? So they've thought of everything here, guys, and obviously we went with the steel and powder coated version. You can get these in aluminum, 1/4 inch, and then I think they are giving you the option to powder coat the aluminum, but I'm not quite sure on that if they've made up their mind. You know, there's a lot of decisions to be made at the Talon's garage shop. But no matter what, I am super impressed with this skid plate system this far. I mean, it just looks so slick and so smooth. Are you comfortable?
I'm gonna take a nap.
Take a nap. So we got our 3 front bolts started, our transmission skid plate in place, again with the 1/4 inch spacers in between the plate and the frame. Now in the rear, we're going to utilize this hole here, and this hole here. These two are already threaded, but this one is not. So they set you up with one of these nut clip things, I don't know what to call them. Then all you got to do is take it and just push it through the frame, lock it into place. I always like to make sure these are lined up before I start them. But then when we get the skid plate up here, there's going to be 2 more 1/4 inch spacers. Now the whole design with these spacers is to again get us lower with the skid plate to where we're clearancing all of these potential points where we could hang up under here. Plus, you know, there's people in the world that want to steal your stuff, and that sucks. Right here on the Bronco, on both sides, passenger and driver, you've got your catalytic converter. One here, and then one over there.
Your what?
Your catalytic converter. Right there. People steal them because they scrap them and they're expensive. Although these aren't in like a crazy accessible place, this skid plate is going to allow protection there. So if you live in a state where your catalytic converters are getting stolen, maybe on your Bronco, this is also a huge reason to get the Talon skid plate system, because now your Cadillacs are protected. Alright, now let's get this skid plate up and in this Bronco. The transfer case says FOMOCO. So we got to looking at the instructions, and it alerted us, hey, you got to start working ahead because we're going to protect our transfer case. So they have developed this bracket to go into place, sitting on top of the transmission skid plate, utilizing still your 2 1/4 inch spacers, and then when your transfer case skid plate comes in here, now you've got 2 bolts to the rib nuts, and then also back here you have to take off your gas tank strap, and this will go outside like that through the bolt with the gas tank strap. We're also going to be utilizing a gas tank skid, so we'll bolt that up a little later. But basically we're going to install the transfer case skid plate and the transmission skid plate at the same time. So the other little cool tricky thing they did is I already put it in here, but there's a little plate with 2 rib nuts on it. I'll see if I can get it out. How good am I? I'm good. And this plate just goes up through the 2 holes in the frame and ultimately lines up inside right there. Now when you're on your bolt through, you got your rib nuts just bam right there. It is really cool that this whole system is just plug and play. You don't have to drill anything. Comes with all the necessary hardware, whether your Bronco has skids on it or not. So the only bad news I got is for you Badlands guys. Currently they don't have skid plates set up for Badlands, but it's in the works. So By the time this video is probably out, it'll probably be right there, ready to go. So, but for everybody else, you got to check these out. These are freaking awesome. I am so excited. Look how much coverage that transmission now has. That thing has been living life in the danger lane, man. These skid plates are impressive. One thing I really like is with this bracket coming to the fuel tank bolt hole, and then also coming up underneath the transmission skid plate. Now your transfer case has way more protection, and you can take way more of a load on this skid plate now due to the fact of, you know, you've got an extra bracket versus the factory one bolting onto the side here, and then I believe it bolted on up here. You just didn't have much support, but man, I am just digging on these skid plates. Look at how flat the bottom of our Bronco is. It's sometimes good to be flat in spaces, you know, and this is a place to be flat. I am super impressed with these skid plates. I don't know about yourself. We still got the fuel tank one to put on that I have a lot higher hopes with this one versus the JCR plate, which that one was expensive. But I don't think I've mentioned the most important key thing with Talon's garage. It's all American made. They're out of Texas. American made steel. They're even doing everything in-house, keeping jobs right here. So that's huge, and more makes me feel better, happier, patriotic, if you will, about, you know, putting these skid plates on the Bronco, you know, USA. That's what it's about. This is in the first series of events of our Bronco going under the knife, if you will. Yeah. Kind of doing a build up here. Can't show you what's in the corner over there. It's gonna be so cool.
It'd be great.
Doing skid plates and some like bigger, you know, tires and blah 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 blah.
While I have you guys, not only does Talon's Garage have the best solution for Bronco skid plates, but they have skid plates and catalytic converter protection.
Cadillac converters.
Catalytic.
Cadillac.
They have Toyota stuff. They have F-150 stuff. They have Lexus. They have it all. Don't drive a Bronco? That's okay. They got you.
Talon's Garage.
Hey, what is this? What is that orange thing right there?
Oh, it's a suction cup. I bought it. Why? I bought it because, well, our gas tank doesn't ever go full. And is what I was thinking was I would put this on the bottom of the gas tank and pull the dent out of it. But I'm beginning to believe that our gas tank's just fine, but because our JCR plate was pushed up so much from, you know, rock crawling, that I think we'll actually be able to get a full tank of fuel in the Bronco. So we'll find out. After this, I'm going right to the gas station. I need to know, because 3/4 of the tank sucks. Your mileage goes down. Not your MPGs, but just the distance, you know?
I don't look at those numbers.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You drive a Bronco.
Yep.
So I'm just going to assemble this on the bench while we're right here. And then, when we get under the Bronco, all we got to do is run 2 bolts to the body. And then we'll push in the front half of the skid plate. And we will be set. So, under the Bronco we go again. Are you ready? So what we got going here is I've assembled the gas tank skid. Super simple. Literally a bolt on one little bracket right there and another one right there, and then your tall bracket goes on that side, and then also 2 more bolts right there. We got it on the floor jack. I'm gonna go on the other side and we're just gonna scooch it on in, jack it up into place. Now you see my ratchet straps wrapped around the mirror. That's by design because we don't have anything holding up the gas tank right now. So use some ratchet straps, loop them around, tie it up. Then when you take off either your straps or a factory skid plate, you know, you don't die. Literally in the instructions, I appreciate that Sean and Crystal put in there, hey, you might die.
You could die.
Don't die while you're working on your Bronco. We want you to come hang out with us. So be smart. Use your thinker, you know. All right, let's put this in.
Let's do it.
That's for next time. For now, let's check out these Talon Garage skids. I'm telling you right now, if you don't have a... Oh, I left a bolt under there. Don't mind that. That was extra. If you don't have skid plates for your Bronco, this is the set that I would highly recommend to you. It is literally a bolt-on process. Nothing had to be modified or altered under the Bronco. Now earlier, I said, you know, hey, you Badlands guys, we don't have the skid plates for these yet. Well, it's because of the sway bar disconnect. They've got to redesign the transmission skid to be able to fit that because it kind of hangs a little bit lower. So if you have a non-Sasquatch Badlands that, you know, doesn't have the sway bar disconnect, then you're set. These will bolt right on. But hang tight. You're going to want to see how we try to use these skids. I mean, you've seen the JCR skid. I'm just saying, I think these are probably going to be a little bit better. Quite a bit better. But we're going to put them to the test. Let's go find that. You got to get off your couch and come with us. We're going on an adventure. We got off our couch and we created an adventure to come to the gas station. We can't find a rock to flex this thing out on, but our fuel gauge now reads full.
Would you look at that?
Would you look at that? So with the JCR plate being bent in half, essentially, it was allowing the tank not to actually go all the way full. So, if nothing else,
Woohoo!
huge shout out to Talon's Garage for sponsoring today's video and getting our fuel gauge to work again. That's awesome.
Bronco Adventures.